Nothing's more overwhelming than knowing that you need to do something, but not knowing where to start. And that feeling only gets worse when it's something super important like your finances. Where do you even begin? Hi, welcome back to My Fine Map, the one stop shop for your financial independence journey. My name is Chris, and I'm here to teach you everything that you need to know about financial independence. In my last video, we talked about what financial independence is and how really it's different for each and every one of us because we live in different places. We have different lengths of time until we're going to achieve financial independence and a multitude of other factors. In fact, if you haven't seen that video, go ahead, hit pause, and watch that one because this video will make a lot more sense after you've seen that. A while back, I heard a story about a young boy and his father who were walking through the woods in the winter. Now, as they were walking, they came upon a clearing that was blanketed in a fresh layer of snow with this huge tree standing in the middle. And the father looks at his son and he says, "I bet that I can walk a straighter line to that tree than you can." And the boy looks at his father and exclaims, "You're on." And he immediately begins to look at his feet and carefully place one foot right in front of the other. After a little while, they reach the tree and they stop and turn to look back at the paths that they've left in the snow. And the little boy starts out really straight, but then it veers off to the side. And you can tell that he looked up and he saw that he was getting a little off course because it kind of veers back. And so his path kind of meanders back and forth as he goes from looking at his feet, making sure that he was walking straight, and then realizing that he was a little bit off and needed to course correct along the way. The father's path, on the other hand, was a straight shot, right to the tree. The boy looks up at his father and he's incredulous. And he goes, "How did you do that?" The father crouches down to his son and he says, "Son, the best way to get to your destination is to keep your eyes on the goal." It's the same thing with personal finance. You can try to achieve financial independence by focusing on all the details, tracking every penny, and poring over your investments to make sure that you maximize your gains. Or you can stop, take a little bit of time, step back, determine what financial independence looks like for you, and use that to determine how you're going to get there. When I talk to people about finance, the responses tend to fall into one of two categories. Either they're totally into it and they get really excited. Have you ever talked to a crypto guy about his latest coin? Or they're not numbers people. Whichever one you are, don't worry, we're here for you. Yes, there will be numbers. You can't really get around that when it comes to personal finance. But we're going to be talking about so much more than just the numbers. We're going to be talking about the psychology of money, about your hopes and fears and dreams for your money. Winning with money is about the mindset and the math. In my last video, we talked about 5 different steps that were designed to help you navigate your financial independence journey. Establish your bearings, set your course, identify your milestones, course correct, and celebrate your milestones. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be going through each of these steps and delving into the mindset and the math that undergirds each one. This week, we're going through establishing your bearings. Just like in a normal journey, it's really hard to get someplace if you don't know where you are or where you're going. And since financial independence is deeply personal, you're going to have to answer a lot of these questions for yourself. So, if you're down to do some work, go ahead, pull out a pen and paper or something else to jot some notes on, and let's dive in. When people sit down to figure out their finances, a lot of times they just dive straight into the numbers. I prefer to take a step back and focus on your mindset first. We all have our own narratives surrounding money, and in order to make the most progress with your financial independence journey, you need to know what yours are. So here we are. This is a financial video, and I'm talking about money. How do you feel? Are you happy, excited even? Maybe you're filled with dread, fear? I know this is a finance video, but are you here because you're like me and you enjoy looking at finance stuff for fun? Or are you like, man, I know I gotta get this money stuff put together, so I'm just gonna grit my teeth and push through? There's no right answer. You just need to know what's going on inside of you right now. As you can tell, I get excited when it comes to money. I like tracking, I like the metrics and all of this stuff. My wife, on the other hand, does not. And I quote, "I've trained my brain to turn off when numbers are involved." If you're like her, don't worry. You don't need to like talking about money in order to win with it. If you hang in there, we'll set you up with a system that's got you checking in on your money once every couple of weeks or once a month at most. You'll be fine. Are you a natural saver or spender? It might seem like finance is oriented towards saving up a whole mess of money, but if you're a spender, it's okay. There are ways to set up your finances so that you don't feel as constrained. Dave Ramsey also likes to talk about the categories of nerds and free spirits. Some people just like numbers. They enjoy tracking the trends of their investments or designing custom budget spreadsheets for their fiancés. Other people would rather pretend that money didn't exist, or at least that it wasn't a constraint. I mean, as long as I've got enough money in my bank account, why bother worrying about that anyway, right? It's easy to assume that the savers of the last question are the nerds of this question, and the spenders are the free spirits. But that's not exactly how it always works out. We're all wired a little bit differently, and I've met spendy nerds, and I'm married to a saver who's a free spirit. What kind of money conversations did your family have while you were growing up? Was the air light when money came up, or was it tense, especially when bills were due? When I was little, I received a very basic financial education. Save 50%, 10% goes to church. You can spend the last 40% on yourself. I have some friends that I know got a much more robust financial education than I did, but I also have some friends whose families never talked about money around them, and that really dictates the way that you think about money now. Now that you've got a better picture of where you are, let's take some time and figure out where you're going. What is financial independence going to look like for you? Now, let's start off with the elephant in the room. Do you even think that retirement is possible for you? I know a lot of my friends grew up just assuming that we would retire, but I know more and more people that are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, and can't even imagine setting aside some of that paycheck for retirement in the future. If that's you, I'm here to help. You might need to make some drastic changes to your life, and you might need to postpone when you're going to retire, but you can retire. Lastly, what do you want financial independence to look like? Is it going to be retirement at 65 and golf every day, or are you going to travel the country in an RV? Maybe you're not even going to live in this country. As I'm sure you're starting to get tired of hearing me say, financial independence gets to look like whatever you want it to. Okay, I know that was a lot, but now we're getting to the good part, the math. The good news is that there's a lot less thinking in this part. The bad news is that it's basically going to be a lot of rapid fire questions for you to jot down and then come back to later. Pro tip, check the timestamp down below if you need to jump back to these questions later. In order to figure out where you are, you need to answer the following questions. What is your monthly net income? How much do you spend each month? How much do you owe, both total debt and broken down by debt? How much do you have in savings? How much do you have set aside for retirement? Okay, that wasn't too bad, right? All right, we're into the home stretch. Now we're going to talk about what financial independence looks like financially for you. The first question that you're going to have to answer is, what is your retirement number? Now, there are a lot of factors that go into this. Where you live, your standard of living, passive income streams, dividends, etc., and those are coming in future videos. But for now, just know that the rule of thumb is roughly 25 times your annual income. So if you make $40,000 a year, you're looking for $1 million. Second, do you have any passive income streams? This could lower your retirement number because you won't have to withdraw as much. Third, how long until you plan on retiring? And how flexible is that number? The sooner that you want to retire, the more aggressively that you need to save. And this is really going to affect your standard of living. Lastly, how much money do you need for your emergency fund? This money is just going to be parked in the bank waiting for that rainy day. I recommend that you start with a 1-month emergency fund, and eventually we'll flesh that out to a 3 to 6 month fund. But a lot of people find that they don't really rest easy until they've got an even bigger pile of cash setting to the side. If that's you, that's totally fine. We just need to take that into account. Okay, we're done. How are you feeling? I know that was a lot of information, but you did it. If you didn't know the answer to any of those questions, I really encourage you to take some time this week and think through them. The math questions will probably take about 30 minutes if you don't have those answers handy already. But if you want a shortcut, using an app or a website like mint.com or personalcapital.com is a neat shortcut. And it'll put you ahead of the game for next week's video. That's all I've got for this week. Thank you so much for sticking with me this far. If you liked what I had to say, hit like and leave a comment. If you want to hear more, go ahead, hit subscribe, and I will see you next Friday.